Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Jodi. She is the CEO of the Expedition Humanitarian. So, Jodi, tell us a little bit about, I'm curious to hear about the Expedition Humanitarian and what that all entails.
Sure. So thank you, Lauren. First of all, thank you for having me. So nice to see you. And super excited to be here on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Very cool. So basically, Expedition Humanitarian kind of started as just an idea and really and through a lot of pressure from my friends and colleagues and like other women I knew that were like, hey, I travel a lot. It's a big part of my life, just like my personal life. And it's kind of like where all of my like hopes and dreams are based, like I want to, all my like life goals are like, I want to travel to 7 continents. I want to go to Asia. Like all of everything that's like my far reaching vision for my life is based in travel. I really love it. And so I went on this really transformative trip to Egypt 2 years ago. And when I got back, through all my pictures and everything, people saw this, especially like the women that I knew were like, oh, when are we going to go on a trip? When are we going to go on a trip? And it was like all these different people were like, I want to go with you here. I want to go with you there. We should go here together. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't go on 12 trips a year with all these, like taking one trip with each person. And I said, why don't we just do like a group trip? And I'd really love to make it a little bit bigger than just a bunch of like women from the U.S. Going to tourist destinations. Like, what if we took it a little bit deeper and made it something a little more special and a little more impactful? So that's where Expedition Humanitarian came from. Our idea was to just form a group that was safe for women to travel, a small group where it wasn't intimidating. And then when we got to our destination, to our location, we wanted an immersive experience where we could connect with local nonprofit organizations and give back or volunteer somehow in the communities. So that's where the name came from. So Expedition Humanitarian is really the idea that we're going on an adventure, but we're also like focused on humanitarian efforts and learning more about the places that we visit. And it's really just kind of like where it came from.
Yeah. That's awesome. So do you have like where you start, like your story? So like, you can, just start out, like, why did you always travel? Did you have like a corporate job that you kind of switched? Like what kind of like when you said transform, that kind of triggered me to think, well, what is that? Like when you went to Egypt, you said, what was the kind of that experience to like, this is what you want to do now? Or have you always done this?
That's such a great question. No one's really asked me that. And I have a really interesting answer for you. So no, I haven't. I didn't spend my younger years traveling a whole lot. Both of my parents were addicts. And so I had a really difficult childhood and I missed out on a lot of opportunities. I feel like, I tell my husband all the time, I probably would have been an attorney if I had been able to go to college, like a normal person.
Yeah.
But those opportunities just weren't there. So when I got to adulthood, I realized, that there were things that I missed out on as a young person that I really wanted to have as an adult. I wanted to create those experiences for myself and be in control of them and not have, someone, not let it be up to someone else. Right. So I just realized that travel was one of those things. I took a trip when I was almost 17 years old. I saved up enough money on my own working at a local grocery store to go to Germany for the summer. So I just took myself to Germany. I had a friend that had been here as an exchange student and then she went back there. So I went to Germany with her. And I just realized like that, I loved that. It wasn't something my family had given me before. I was the first, I think, in probably 2 generations to go to Europe. And I was like, this is my thing. Like, I want to do this. So that transformation really happened with that first trip to Germany that I just did pretty much on my own. Figuring out how to get my passport, figuring out how to do everything on my own because my parents were kind of out of the picture. And that really just motivated me. So I throughout my life, especially like being younger, I was a teen parent. I have I'm turning 39 this month. I have a 20-year-old daughter. So I have, it was always like a struggle to get there, but I still prioritized and was able to like make it happen, even if it was small trips. And so I just felt like that was really like the turning point for me. And then when we went to Egypt, so Egypt was like the catalyst, right? I've been to Europe. I've been to lots of different places in the Caribbean, South America, Central America. But when we went to Egypt, it was my first time in Africa, and I took both of my daughters. She was then turning 18, and my younger daughter as well. who was 12 at this time. And I just thought like this is it. Like this is amazing to give them this opportunity and like to even see the changes in them, the changes in me, like experiencing something completely outside of ourselves, meeting people who we, you know, would have never encountered had we just stayed in our little bubble where we live, and seeing that there's just this whole world. I mean, Egypt's like the cradle of humanity. It's an amazing place if you have never been.
Yeah,
And having
I've
those
never been.
experiences, never been. I highly recommend Egypt. We will go soon with Expedition Humanitarian. So if you're interested, you can totally come with us.
Yeah, maybe I'll just have to I'll have to go along with you guys.
And yeah, so and when I got back, I was a different person. I really think so. I was more open-minded for sure. I was definitely changed, and I think I was just more fun, you know, because you can't worry about when you're traveling like that, the way that we did in Egypt, and the way that I have in other places. You can't worry about if you're, you know, you have your hair straightener, if you have a blow dryer, if you have like you're just like, do I have water? It's like water
Right.
available. And I came back as a more, I think, relaxed, less anxious, less uptight person with a much broader worldview and a better heart. If that makes sense.
Yes, that's awesome. So, just to kind of like paint the picture for like the listeners. So, when you talk about like you have this business that you like basically travel around the world and you give back to humanity, which is amazing. I love that. Do you guys also do some like healing or like deep transformation on these, or is it kind of just like you travel and you kind of just incorporate this kind of like way of life or like their way of life or just learning about the different cultures?
Yeah, so we kind of leave that pretty open to what is available to us at each location. Like, so for example, we went to Guatemala last year and we did a Temazcal ceremony, which is the sweat lodge. So we had a Mayan shaman who's like, you know, that's what he does, basically, very spiritual individual. And
Yeah.
he took us through that journey, and it was really amazing, really transformative. Everyone cried. And it wasn't
Yeah.
something that I had like expected to happen. I was like, I didn't head into it going like, okay, we're going to go in the sweat lodge. We're going to come out. We're going to be, you know, completely like healed and transformed and feel different. But that's what happened.
Yeah.
And I think that happened just because I was open to the experience because we were in that place and it was part of the experience. So
Yeah.
some places we get a more spiritual kind of healing experience if that is
I
the
love that.
norm for that culture. And some
Yeah.
places, you know, we just do yoga in the garden. Like we went to St. Croix and we did yoga in their botanical garden. And it was just, you know, kind of a
Yeah.
fun, relaxing, meditative things to do, but it wasn't that deeper spiritual dive like we did in Guatemala. So
Yeah.
we base it on the cultural availability of, you know, the place that we're at for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to say, speaking about the shaman, I'm actually currently going through the shamanic journey. And when you said deep spiritual, like it is very deep. Like I didn't realize how deep it was. And I just personally felt very called to do it, especially a lot of my clients too. Like I've noticed that like that deep shadow work, you know, like you always hear about, you know, like you work with a healer or, you know, like you do like emotional healing or whatever it is, or yoga or a Reiki, and it's just like, but I've noticed, I mean, it's like 5 weeks in now, but I'm just like, gosh, this is so deep. Like it goes so, it's like when I say deep, it's like ancestral stuff, like wounding, and it's like stuff that it's like never at the surface, but it's like very, I don't know, like you use Mother Nature, you use animals, you use like, it's just, you use like nature, like things around you to do that. So that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
so so when you said now do you believe that like volunteering like in these like because it's kind of like if you're traveling and you're like kind of like immersed in their culture, do you guys do any like volunteering, or does this enhance like the travel experience for both like the community and whoever's traveling with you guys?
Yeah, so it's definitely like the core purpose. And we do, it depends on what's needed in the location. So I really try to default a lot to like the place that we're going, the culture, the people, and get ideas from them and get feedback. I don't approach it like I don't call them and say, oh, hey, you know, I'm bringing 6 American women to your, and this is what we're going to do when we're there. I'm very much like, what do you recommend? What do you want? What do you need? What can we do to give back to the community that we're visiting? Because we're going to get a lot from you. I know that we are. So sometimes we're just bringing supplies that are needed, Sometimes we're
Okay.
bringing medicines, we're bringing book bags. Sometimes we're teaching English. They just want to practice English because a lot of the tourists that visit those areas will want, will speak English. And in order for them to make money as tour guides or in that tour industry, they need to speak English. So we do a lot of practicing English. We flew dogs back from St. Croix. So like we had
Oh.
rescue dogs.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and they were like, we need
Oh,
these dogs to go to the mainland U.S. because they have a much better chance of getting adopted here. And we were
right.
like, okay. So they found adopters for 3 puppies, and we flew them on the plane back with us. Like it was like holding a pit bull
Oh,
puppy going through security. Um,
yeah.
so, yeah, so sometimes we are actually volunteering in Guatemala. We like volunteered in a school and worked in the school for the day. Sometimes we're just like helping out. Like in another location in Guatemala, we took some tour guides in training that were just kind of new to the industry, but really we're working for this nonprofit training as tour tour leaders for hiking. So we took 3 of them with us. And we just practiced English with them while we hiked and told, just kind of get them like familiar with like American, like dealing with Americans that are tourists and like, what kind of works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they said at the end, they're like, well, you guys laugh a lot. We didn't think this would be fun.
I was gonna say we do actually. I think me and you have laughed a lot on this this short time. I've noticed that. I was gonna say I wonder if they said that because when I went to a different country, it's been like I don't know about like I don't know maybe like 10 years now. But I remember the one thing I remember the guy telling me he was like you laugh a lot and I was like how am I supposed to take that like is that good or bad? And he's like no you guys are like really happy and funny and I'm like well most of us are.
Yeah, yeah.
You do
It
laugh
was
a lot. Yeah.
We do. It was the same in Egypt. They kept saying like, oh, my tour guide was amazing, and he kept saying, I love having Americans. You guys laugh at everything.
I think it's kind of like a nervous thing. I feel like that we don't know what to say and we just laugh. Like maybe that's it. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of really, and I think we can also like laugh at ourselves. So like, if I would pronounce, a word wrong in Arabic or something, and they would laugh, I was laughing too. Like I wasn't getting upset, or it's also like
Yeah.
having that mentality that like not personalizing everything and like just
Yes.
being absorbed in the joy around you and choosing joy. And I think like we're at least the group, the vibe for Expedition Humanitarian is definitely like a choice of joy all the time. Everything is funny. Everything is so much fun. Um, there are deeper parts for sure. When we volunteer, there are some difficult things that we have to process, some things that we're seeing, that we're experiencing, that we don't experience at home normally. And we do have some processing built in for those types of situations, where we need to kind of decompress about what we've seen. But for the most part, I think we walk away as better human beings after every trip, for sure.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you said about joy because I feel like when I ask people what joy or peace or happiness looks to them, it's actually very sad when people kind of like they stop and pause because they don't really know. Like it's hard. Like life is hard, right? And especially like, with all the things going on. And I feel like for me, when I volunteer, when I have the time or like I can give back to people, just like helping people, like just in general, I do feel joy. Like I always say, like, when people say to me, like, what success is for, like, what does it mean for you? It's helping somebody else feel or do like kind of like heal or be a better version of themselves. And if I feel like I'm not successful if I don't like if I don't um help them do that, so I like
Yeah,
that you say that joy is like I'm assuming it's like a core value of your companies.
yeah, for sure. And I think there's definitely, like you said, some intrinsic value that you get as a person um, from volunteering, from giving back, from feeling like you're contributing. And I think it also allows us to just take a step further into our travel experiences. Like, so we're not just, sipping like a pina colada on the beach, like someone, like we're definitely like learning a lot about the culture, about the place, about the people, and showing them that we care, that we're not there to just exploit their resources or exploit them as a people, but more like to learn and to absorb their information. And I'll tell you, as much as I try to volunteer and bring things that they need and teach English where we go or give back, I learn and absorb so much more. They give me so much more than I could ever give them. So
Yeah.
I feel like we always are really, we're making a very small dent because what we get back is just, is way more than what we
Yeah.
could give.
Yeah. I love that. Now, is there any trips that are coming up that you're going on this
Oh
year?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we go to Panama in 2 weeks. That trip is full. So we only take like 6 women at a time just because it's
Okay.
more manageable. And so like disclaimer, Expedition Humanitarian is my full-time job. This is just something that I do like a passion project. It's not really like a money-making entity. It's not, that's not how it's designed. This is what I love to do and why I do it. It's just because I feel like it's my almost my mission to like allow women to have this experience, the same experience that I have while giving back in these other countries. So yeah, so it's not really like a like a full-time job, but just really something that I just love to do. Completely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your full-time job?
Oh, I'm a grant writer for nonprofit organizations, which is really where this came from, right? Because I was like, okay, like I know how to speak to nonprofits. I know what they do. I'm aware of how hard it is, and I would love to support that. So just naturally from, going to different places, I've visited nonprofits just on my own in Argentina, in Europe, all over Europe, and also in Egypt when I went with my daughters. And now we're like intentionally making those connections with Expedition Humanitarian when we travel. So
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, yeah, that makes sense. I was gonna say I was like, are you a travel agent?
no, I'm not. So I don't book any travel, like other than planning these 2 trips for women a year. I don't do any kind of like travel booking. And really what I do with these is I start with the nonprofits and I say like, hey, this is the group, this is what we do. Here's some pictures of us in other countries and we're coming. What do you recommend? And the nonprofits that I connect with, they direct me. They're like, oh, you should stay in this
Oh,
hotel. Oh, you should book this. Oh, you should do that. They're my contacts. And I'm sorry, I didn't finish answering your question. Panama in 2 weeks. We're going to Panama. We're going, besides being in Panama City and like the main areas, we're going to do an overnight stay in the Embera village in the jungle with the Embera tribe. So we're
oh,
excited for that. Yeah.
that's
And
exciting.
then we're doing 3 days with the Gunayala people in the San Blas Islands, which is kind of its own sovereign nation within Panama. So we're very
Okay.
excited to do that. And they're very under resourced. So we've got we're bringing a lot of supplies and kind of spending some time there. I'm very excited for that. Kind of like camping.
Yeah.
And then and that trip full. And then in July we go to Kenya. So that'll
I think
be
I seen that on your social media. I think I seen that. I was like, I need to ask her about that. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Kenya's a big one. Kenya is amazing, and Kenya is really just I think a once in a lifetime trip. So of course we have a safari built in because like you can't go to Kenya and not go on a safari.
Right, right.
But we are working with Kenyan owned organizations, supporting the Kenyan economy as much as we can, and versus using foreign owned organizations and companies. We are visiting the Kibera slums, so we'll do some volunteer work and learning about the efforts that are being made there. It's one of the largest slum areas in Africa. I think it may be the largest. We'll also do learn about some animal conservation work through the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, which is like the elephant orphanage. I'm really excited for that.
Oh, yeah,
You
I love
know,
elephants.
yeah, and then we'll head to the coast to the Mombasa area and just kind of for like that's like our detox, like processing time is kind of just to hang out by the ocean for a few days to kind of relax and all of that. So we've got some really special stuff built in for Kenya. I know we don't have time to go through the whole itinerary, obviously, in this podcast, but it's all on our website and it's
Yeah.
going to be amazing. And we have 3 spots left for Kenya.
I was going to say, if somebody's listening to this, when is Kenya?
Kenya, we leave July 24th from the U.S. So we'll
Okay.
be there. So basically, leaving the U.S. July 24th, coming back to the U.S. On August.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say, so if somebody's listening to this and they're interested in connecting, I'll make sure, obviously, you said it's on your website. So I'll make sure that the link and all the links and stuff are in the description box if people are like, oh, I want to do this. Now, if somebody is listening to this and the one question that's coming up is when you started this, like a lot of people I've noticed want to do something like give back in a way, like you said, nonprofit. Would that be the way that they would start these projects, or like what would you? What kind of advice would you give to somebody that wants to start like something like the passion project or even a business like this to kind of help back to give like to other countries?
So I don't know a whole lot about the travel industry. I'll be honest with you. Like I jumped into this knowing that I could connect with nonprofits because I
Okay.
know that industry very well, and I could from there build these amazing trips. But using the nonprofit is kind of the catalyst to do that, and then making
Okay.
sure that we're giving back to them at the same time. But I would say for anybody, when you have something that's on your heart like this, or that you just feel really, that you're being pulled in the direction to do it, the first step for me was really to create like a mind map and figure out exactly what I wanted to do, and then what I wanted others to experience, what I wanted my gift to the world to be, and then just kind of hone that in. And I brought in other people, right? So I didn't just make these decisions all on my own. The first um, five ladies that went with me to Guatemala, they had a lot of influence and a voice in how Expedition Humanitarian was to be formed and what it was going to look like. And they still have a big voice in our Facebook group. We have a big Facebook group on how we decide on future trips, and a lot of the decisions that are made, it's very much a democracy. So I think that that's a really important thing too, is just remembering that when
Okay.
you're going to do a give back, it has to be about more than just you. So you kind
Right.
of have to open it up and
Yes. I love that. So, in your opinion, the other question I have that's coming to me too is, so in your opinion, are there any key factors that would make a like travel experience truly transformative and impactful on a personal level?
yeah, so I definitely think starting from the very beginning that it's really important to work with companies and organizations that are owned by the people that live there. So if you're going to Guatemala, you want to look for Guatemalan owned agencies or organizations. And I ask those questions. Is this, who owns this organization? Where is this organization or this business registered? And then I want to know if, you know, I think the other like piece of transformation for sure is if the businesses that I'm contracting with are giving back to nonprofits. So like that's something that helps. Like do they give, if they are for profit, are they giving back to their community? Do they care? Um, and one of the other ways that I think I've made these trips really transformational is by like doing out of the box things that aren't like on the normal tourist itinerary, right? So like cooking classes, I think are a great like first step, but we also do some crazy, not crazy, but I'd say out of the box things. My friends say crazy, but like camping in the jungle, right? Like I was like,
Yeah.
can we do this? And they're like, yeah. Are you sure you want to do this? Because you're American. Are you sure about this? It's not the normal. But I was like, yeah, we definitely do. So I think not being afraid to have those experiences and figuring out what you're going to be in this country for maybe the only time in your life, and just operating not from a place of fear, but from a place of curiosity and open-mindedness and wanting to learn. So try the food, visit the organizations, engage with the nonprofits, ask how you can help, ask how you can be more inclusive when you travel, learn a few phrases from the language that they speak before you go. And I think that just overall, you're just at that point, you're just carrying the vibe that you're like there, and you're more than just the average tourist. Like you're really there to learn, and you're there to and I think people can feel that right off the bat, especially if you know like a
Yeah.
few phrases in their language and you're visiting. You're caring more about than just the regular stuff with normal stuff. So
Right. You're not just coming to like destroy their country or, when people go like on vacation and stuff, it's just like they don't take care of their, like the other people's country, which I know other countries love Americans because, they know that we have money and
well,
we're
we
there and they
tip.
like
We're a
spend
tipping
money.
culture. We're
Yeah.
a tipping culture,
And we
and
tip. Yes. They're like,
yeah.
what do you mean you tip? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good thing. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
really good. Look at it this way: like you're infusing the local economy. You're helping a local family, especially if
Yeah.
you're using these companies that are smaller and that are local. And it can be really great. And then I talk to my tour guides, man. I'm like, hey, when we were in Egypt, we had Muhammad was our tour guide. By the end of the tour, me and the kids were all calling him Uncle Muhammad. We were like we bonded with this guy so much,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we were like, Uncle Muhammad, we don't want. He's like, it's our last dinner in Egypt. We're like, we want the true Egyptian experience. Like, take us where the locals go. And he took us to this restaurant, and everyone in the restaurant was literally like shocked that we were not Egyptian. They were like clapping when we came in the door, clapping when we left, coming up to our table, just a random, like not even the wait staff, people that weren't our waiters, random other patrons in the restaurant were just coming up to our table, asking us where we were from, asking us what we were doing in that restaurant, saying thank you for visiting. It was crazy. And I ate a pigeon there, which was also crazy. But
Oh wow, that's great.
you know, well, they were like, "This is the normal." I was like, "All right, like I'll eat the normal thing. It's fine."
What did
But I
it
think
taste like? And now
it's
everybody's probably gonna be like, what does that taste like?
kind of like duck. So it's a darker meat. It's kind of like duck. It was stuffed with some rice. So it was pretty good. It wasn't. I don't know that I would order it again, but I'm glad I
Right,
did. At that point, I was feeling very immersed in the culture. Everyone was very
right.
excited to
And
see
it
us.
probably doesn't taste like our pigeons either.
I don't know. I've never had a pigeon anywhere else, but like that was normal to eat there, and I was like, okay, that's fine, I'll eat it. But yeah, I think that letting people know that that's what you're there for is really important. Like letting the tour, because tour guides are trained to like pick up on what like the vibe you're giving
Yeah,
and like give you the experience that you're looking for. If you're like, look, I'm here to like I want to do like the things that are like I want to experience your culture. Like
right.
give you the deepest cultural experience you can. They're like, okay, we're going for it. So I mean, we
You're
got to
eating
make
pigeon.
bread in yeah, we got to make bread in Egypt. We got to weave a
Oh,
rug, and these weren't planned excursions. Our guy just took us to a lady who was making bread, and he was like, "Can they try?" And she was like, "Sure." And so she showed us how to, there's a huge language barrier, but she showed us how to do it. And same with the rug place. It wasn't like a plan. We just kind of stopped by there, and he was like, "Let's learn how to make rugs." Like, okay.
yeah,
So
that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it was
The
super
one
fun.
place now, have you been to like what countries have you been to?
Oh man, there's a whole list. So I'm gonna disclaimer this first. So I'm gonna list a lot of countries, but I've only seen 9% of the world. So like just to put that into perspective,
Oh wow. Okay.
I put it in an app the other day and I was like, well, that's a bummer. But I've been to most of the Caribbean islands,
Okay.
almost all of Central America. I think the only country I have not been to in Central America, well, Panama is coming up, and then Nicaragua. I have not been to Nicaragua. I've been to Argentina. I've been to Peru. I've been to Germany, France, Iceland, Poland, not Poland, sorry, Czech Republic, and I have been to Egypt. So just like a lot of different places like that. And
Yeah. Yeah. I always say that I want to like go, I want to like try. I always like say that. I mean, I guess when I was a kid, we traveled, we went to like different countries, like
mm-hmm.
on like, I'm not saying like traveling to different countries, but like, cruises and stuff, right? Like, so we see
Okay.
like a little bit of the country, but I'm always so interested like in like their culture and like why people do what they do and like why it's so different or like just anything. So I think that that is amazing that you can experience. And that's crazy that you said all of these places and it's like 9% of the world.
I know.
The
I know.
world
I
is
keep
really
thinking,
big.
I know. I was like, maybe we should do Brazil in 2025. I feel like that's a big one, and I would get like, get like to 10% maybe if we go that far. But yeah,
Right? 10%. Yeah.
the world is huge, and if you think about it, you're seeing, one country, two countries a year. It's hard. It's just I don't know if it'll ever be enough for me. I don't know if it'll ever be enough.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's probably more than you probably traveled more than the average person, like to see like the country, obviously, unless they're like world travelers or they do this, for a living or something, or, travel for work. But I personally didn't realize, I was like, wow, there's like different, when people ask me like where I'm from, like, of course, everybody knows where the US is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that. Like sometimes people don't even know where Delaware is. Like they live in the United States and don't know where I'm like, did you like fail like geography or something? Like the
Yeah.
first year you don't know. You don't know where Delaware is. Like what? Yes.
So when we went to France a few years ago, my mom came with us, and so people would always ask like, "Where are you from in the U.S.?" And I picked up on it fairly quickly that they know where Miami is. So like we live in Florida, but we live like my mom lives in a small town in Florida, so she would say her town name, and they would be like, "I don't what is that?" And then she would say Florida, and they would still be like, "What is that?" So I
Yeah.
said, "Mom, you got to say Miami." She's like, well, "I don't live in Miami," and I'm like, "I know, but just it's
Yeah. They don't
close
know.
enough." So
Yeah.
I've noticed that throughout the world, everyone knows where Miami is. So when in
Yeah.
doubt, just
Or they
say New
know
York.
where New York is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I usually say New York. Yes. I'm like, they usually know where California is too. So I'm like, okay. Or like they know where Washington is, which is very weird, but I'm like, no, not by Washington State, but there's DC, but it's probably because, that's where like the White House is. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the U.S. is huge. Can't expect everybody to know. And I'll be honest, in
Right.
the return, I'm not very good at, I'm just learning African geography.
Yeah, well,
So
like Africa and Asia, I don't know where any of I didn't realize that there was actual small countries inside the huge, like oh, okay. So yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing. So is there any last thoughts or any other advice that you can give somebody that wants to be a world traveler, wants to use this for personal growth or self-discovery? Like, is there anything that you can think of that comes to your mind to offer advice to?
Yeah, I would say like, find other women who have traveled, find other women who are, are interested in traveling, because that has been such a blessing for me, for sure. And I know it's been a blessing for the other women that travel with us, like to have this group that, has, you feel safe, you're in a group, everything's kind of planned out, you have an itinerary, and it's a very calming, very fun way to have the travel experiences. So if you're nervous about traveling or you have fears, I think reaching out to us, or even joining us on social media just to like get the vibe, because I think it's literally calming, even if you choose not to join us on our trips. Just getting the advice, like we have a whole group of women who have traveled all over the place, and travel with us, some who don't, they're just in our group to provide advice. And I think like building a community around travel is really key. And then if you do ever want to travel with Expedition Humanitarian, of course, like we're happy to include any woman who wants to experience the world is welcome with us. And it really is like a group of close friends that travel with it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's awesome. It sounds like a very fun time.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely has great memories, and we definitely I'm thankful for this, for this support for this group every day, just because it gives me something to look forward to when you're busy being a wife and a mother, an employee, and a professional and a
Yeah,
community member. Sometimes we lose sight of who we are as women.
yeah,
Truly, and what
definitely.
we love and
Yeah.
what we want to experience, what we want for our lives, because we're so busy doing for others. And I think that through these trips, we really get that back.
Yes, I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the episode with Jodi on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe. You can leave a review and then share this with somebody that you feel that will gain knowledge from listening. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.